I'm going to sort of backtrack. I got my first iPod Touch when I was 8.5 years old. My parents thought that they were doing everything right. I'd spent like 2 years saving up to get all this money, which as an 8.5-year-old, $300 is pretty much Jeff Bezos level, you know. Um, and so I spent all this time saving up to get this iPod, and my parents let me get it, and they thought they were doing the right thing. Because I'd worked so hard for it, and it showed that I was setting good goals for myself. And looking back, I think I severely regret that purchase, because at the age of 9, which is a lot younger than a lot of people realize this can happen, I became fully addicted to pornography. I honestly don't remember where I first encountered it because I was so young. But I do know that for the next 7 years, I spent a lot of my time and my life in a cycle of guilt and hatred towards myself because of the images I was seeing. In middle school, I was bullied severely, and that combined with always comparing myself to images of women twice my age made me develop an eating disorder for a time. I was depressed. I never wanted to leave my room. And it was all just because I constantly felt like I was entirely alone. My parents gave me the stereotypical birds and the bees at like 10. And at that point, I was thinking, of course, I already know all of this. Why wouldn't I? But they never talked about porn. They never introduced an idea of me encountering sex somewhere outside of some distant future that I wasn't going to get to yet. And so, like I said, for 5 years of my life, I was silent. And I hated myself and closed in on myself and was convinced that I was alone. I was convinced that the cycle of guilt that I was in was one that I alone was facing, that no other women ever went through. And it was just something that maybe some men somewhere struggled with, but mostly it was me. And I was so quiet for so long, and then I started talking. And the thing that overwhelmed me the most, the minute I started speaking out, was how many people said me too. I don't think I had a conversation in the first 2 years that I started talking about my addiction where the person I was talking to hadn't also struggled. I talked to boys and girls my age and older and younger, and every single one of them said, yeah, I feel where you're coming from. I think specifically of my friend Judith, who was just on Instagram. She was 13, and her parents thought that was some harmless app. She regularly would share photos of anything that could be mentioned in Bo Burnham's white woman's Instagram. Very, very harmless images, but she came across porn there, and it took over her life. She developed such a severe addiction to social media that she completely had to get rid of a phone for 3 years in order to remove herself from the sphere that she was in. And similarly, I found, as I was trying to escape desperately from this situation, that everywhere I turned was saturated in this kind of content. It felt like a trap which I could not claw my way out of, no matter how hard I tried. Now, I was very fortunate. At some point, I was able to break free. But recently I had a conversation with my brother about that time in my life, because I'm very open with my family about it now. And he told me that he felt like he didn't have a sister for half a decade. And that broke my heart. Because growing up wasn't easy, and I left him completely alone. And I don't blame myself for that. But I do say that this is an addiction that is so isolating and will leave you feeling so broken that you don't think you can recover. And the really wonderful truth is that you can, but you can never do it alone. Because porn as an addiction just continues to keep you more and more lonely. And the way out of that is putting people in community again. So as parents, as people watching this, I want to say that it's imperative that you talk to your kids about this over and over and over again. The one-time talk or the two-time introduction isn't going to do. It needs to be a continual, intentional, planned conversation. And it's going to start out awkwardly. Believe me, I was the one who initiated it with my parents. Do you know how weird it is to go to your parents who are in their 40s and have to say, hey, I'd really like to talk about my pornography addiction. That'll make them squirm. But I love and respect my parents a lot, but that shouldn't have been the place I was in. I wish so much that they had taken the time to open that link first, to start that relationship, to build each other up. And at first, it's going to look awkward, and it's going to feel like you're distancing yourself from your kids, because kids' natural response to their parents trying to talk about things they think are gross or weird is to run the other way. But I think that what parents need to understand is that talking about this in the long term builds up much stronger relationships and builds connection in families that's much deeper than just this unsaid taboo living in the background. Because I've been able to open up to my family about this as much as I have, I feel like we are so much more connected now. And that only happened because of those kinds of conversations, and it's imperative for parents to start doing that.